Today we look at 5 exotic Grand Tourers you can buy for under £100,000. I've got some serious cars in this video, let's get straight into it. This first car has genuinely taken one of the biggest drops in value I've seen from an exotic car in recent years, the Maserati Granturismo Modena, or the second generation Granturismo. Adjusted for inflation, these would have been around £140,000 new in 2023, yet now they've dipped already below our 100k limit, starting anywhere from around £97,000, and for 100k you'll be looking at a 2024 model that's done around 3,000 miles. That's a drop of £43,000 in 2 years, or 30% total loss, and they don't show much sign of stopping if the MC20 is anything to go by. After a 4-year hiatus between 2019 and 2023, the car returned with its second generation, and while the first gen was Pininfarina designed, this one was designed in-house at Maserati. To try to combat the depreciation Maserati have become known for, they tried not to use many parts from Stellantis, and instead designed bespoke parts specifically for the Granturismo. Most Stellantis parts are used therefore in non-visible areas, and instead your attention is drawn to that lovely interior, which is slight nods to Michelangelo's Campidoglio Plaza. Speaking of Italy, the Modena in the name refers to the fact that production of the car shifted from Turin to the historic Maserati Modena factory, where the brand used to build cars that battled Ferraris. These come with the same engine as the MC20 but detuned for GT use, a 3-litre V6 twin turbo block that makes 483 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 3.8 seconds, which is actually mad fast for a Grand Tourer. All in, I think it's a lovely looking modern Grand Tourer, but I wouldn't buy one right now, as I think they've still got a long way to go on depreciation, so I'd rather let someone else stomach that for now. As these are pretty new, there isn't much out there on forums in terms of common problems. The older generation was known for electrical and transmission issues in particular, but the main negative topic on forums I could see owners talking about was interior quality and of course the ludicrous depreciation. The Mercedes SLS AMG Roadster, despite not having the gull wings of the coupe, is still not far off hypercar levels of special given how rare it is. And what's interesting is it's actually rarer than the coupe, with just 35 on the roads in the UK right now and 38 sawned, yet it's also the cheaper option. It's also not an afterthought to that coupe, as it was designed alongside it, so it didn't require additional reinforcement or rigidity work. It's a purpose-built roadster and not a roof-chopped coupe. That design process helps it to save some weight too, and its chassis is only 2 kilograms heavier than that of the coupe. It's also significantly easier to get in and out of than the Gullwing for obvious reasons, and by that I mean it's literally just a normal entry and exit experience. Also unique to the Roadster experience was the sound. The valve timing was adjusted, as well as the resonance, to make the naturally aspirated V8 bark more aggressively at lower speeds to ensure owners would drive with the roof down as often as possible to enjoy that sound. The sound comes from this thing's beloved 6.2 litre V8 engine, putting out 563 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 3.7 seconds, and I recently drove the C63 AMG Edition 507 that took some of the strengthened internals from that engine. Check that video out once you finish this one. One crazy thing about these was the special colours you get for the soft top roof. Most owners order them in black, but you could get them in beige or brown as well, both of which are exceptionally rare, so if you find one, you found a unicorn. These start at around £92,000 but are very hard to come by, so you may not find one. That engine is pretty well known, and the main common issue is camshaft adjuster wear, though typically only on higher mileage models. The gearbox has also been known to develop a slow downshift, which makes sense with the car's age, but it can be solved with a software flash. Outside of that, I'd consider this car among the most special Mercedes out there, so expect higher servicing costs. From an AMG to an AMR now. Next up we have Aston Martin's later generation of DB11s, the AMR or Aston Martin Racing models. Despite the name, they're not specifically track built and remain lovely luxury Grand Tourers with a few tweaks of the pre-AMR examples. One of those tweaks was specifically to make owners' lives more comfortable, with the denser underlayer on the interior that helps the car to be quieter inside, getting rid of the vibrations that were caused by the turbos in pre-AMR models. These come with an utterly ludicrous 5.2 litre V12 twin turbocharged block, makes 630 brake horsepower, getting it to 60 in 3.6 seconds, and their rear wheel drive, so all that insane power can be pretty tough to handle. That additional power over the standard DB11 was also delivered differently. Aston removed some of the softness in the throttle response and made it more aggressive, but not so much they killed the Grand Touring characteristics. It also got new damper valving and revised stiffness to get the car to drive more like the standard car's sport mode when in GT mode. Then of course in sport mode and sport plus, in the AMR it's an absolute level above again, shifting this car towards supercar handling, but again keeping it as a GT. Much of this handling was tuned at the Nürburgring, and internally at Aston it earned the car the nickname Green Hell GT. Even more interestingly, those dynamics were signed off by the chief engineer Matt Becker, who came over from Lotus, so you know this thing was built with some of that ideology in mind. If only more of that Lotus ideology was used though, as they nearly made a manual model but sacked it off in the end. You'll find these starting anywhere from around 85k, and 100k will get a 2021 example that's done around 10,000 miles. The majority of problems I could find on forums were related to the infotainment system, which is known to be incredibly sketchy and glitchy. Other electricals are also known to go wrong, including the aircon and navigation, and some of the pressure and temperature sensors can stop working. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are, then do hit like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments down below what car you would buy for under £100,000. It's a big budget, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I thought about putting the Ferrari 599 GTB in this video, as it's one of my personal favourite Ferraris, and arguably the best value for money example under 100k, but the FF is newer, more practical, and in my opinion one of the coolest sub 100k Ferraris out there. It's a shooting brake, which is a dying breed of car anyway, and then to add on to that, it was Ferrari's first production four-wheel drive. Lots of people didn't like the design early doors, and it was probably about as polarizing as the old school Mondial was, but I personally think it's pretty good looking. And that all-wheel drive isn't true all-wheel drive, it only operated under very specific conditions, kind of like the opposite of a Haldex on many VW Group cars, as above 4th gear it's pretty much 100% rear-wheel drive. If that wasn't enough, these came with a 6.3 litre V12 engine that makes 650 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 3.6 seconds, some serious performance for a 4-seater. In fact, it was the world's fastest 4-seater car on release, and Ferrari's second fastest Grand Tourer after the 599 GTO. Even though it followed on from the 612, I also think it's a very important Ferrari, as it proved that customers would buy a genuinely practical car as long as it stayed true to Ferrari's heritage, hence the crazy V12 engine, the Pininfarina design, the carbon ceramic Brembo brakes, and the fact that it was then succeeded by the GTC4 Lusso. I think without this car's success, Ferrari wouldn't have continued on to build the Purosangue, but the difference is the FF is actually a nice looking car. 75 grand is the lowest that I could find these listed for, and 100k is enough for a 2015 model that's done around 30,000 miles. Owners have noticed some oil leaks from various gaskets, and some less common gearbox issues are spoken about on forums. The power transfer unit for the all-wheel drive is also susceptible to failure, and a more common issue is sticky buttons on the interior, particularly in warmer countries. Taking the top spot, we have the incredibly quick McLaren GT, which is McLaren's first foray into creating something with a little bit more boot space and a greater focus on luxury rather than pure speed and aggression. But it isn't really a purpose-built Grand Tourer, it's a 720S in Grand Tourer's clothing, sharing the same carbon tub, engine and most of the looks, just a few tweaks to the aesthetics and slightly different tuning to enhance the touring nature of the car and decrease the focus on trackability. These come with a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8 engine, putting out 611 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 3.1 seconds, which is not far off a 720S really in terms of performance, pretty mental for a car that was designed to fit a set of golf clubs or skis in the boot. It actually has 2 boots, although owners do complain that the one by the engine can get incredibly hot, so you might find your golf clubs are a little warm by the time you reach the course. McLaren did try to combat that and increase boot space by mounting the engine lower than it is in the 720S, and though it did free up space, it clearly didn't stop the heat soaking through. And honestly, the main difference I can find between these and 720S's when it comes to performance is the throttle mapping. In comfort mode for cruising, they're made to feel a lot slower than they actually are. As soon as you throw them into sport or track, they're effectively a baby version of a 720S, so you won't be missing much. And though it was named a Continental GT rival, in reality it's a supercar that's been slightly restrained. If you want one, you need to spend around £87,000, and within our 100k price range, you'll be looking at a 2020 example that's done around 10,000 miles. In typical older McLaren fashion, electrical issues are the main problems with these, and the cooling system is also prone to leaks. Also, probably a more practical issue, but some owners have mentioned that despite the name, it's not quite as good a Grand Tourer as you'd hope, with a cramped cabin and difficult to access boot. So that was 5 exotic Grand Tourers. I hope you enjoyed. Do hit like and subscribe if you did. Thanks to the patrons. You guys well for watching. Click on screen to see my review of that C63 I mentioned.